Hi guys. Um, so I know I spoke about the Haaretz um, fake news article today, and um, I also spoke about how um, it's basically propaganda piece, and it's a propaganda piece that's being used by the Islamic Republic, as well as communists and leftists, to delegitimize the um, Iranian opposition and to try and make it seem like um, King Reza Pahlavi isn't legitimate. They're also trying to make it seem as if, this is some sort of um, Israeli propaganda, like Israel is behind all of this, which is complete and utter nonsense. Our movement to overthrow the Islamic Republic is real, is legitimate. We have all of the receipts. Um, and I also spoke about how the Haaretz article is, completely fake. Um, and you can catch that live stream from earlier today in my YouTube feed. Um, but I wanted to come on here because the worst possible thing that could, you know, possibly happen um, to to Iranians has happened. Um, let me add a banner here so that people who come in and join the stream know what we're talking about. So um, give me a moment. I mean, it's literally the worst thing that could happen to us. The biggest fear that we have as Iranians is literally um, what happened to one of our own just a few hours ago. Um, and I'll just add this here. So um, the fake news article by Israeli media outlet Haaretz led to the forced confession of an Iranian inside of Iran. And I'll show you the forced confession in a moment. Um, I'm going to talk more about it tomorrow on my like regular during regular hours. I go live weekdays, Monday to Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, and that space is scheduled. So make sure that you're subscribing to my YouTube and following that. Um, but I really wanted to come on and speak about this because this is, when we as Iranians, when we talk about the Islamic Republic and we talk about um, the fact that we're living, or those Iranians who are still inside of the country are living in occupied Iran. It's a 1984 Orwellian dystopia. This is what we're referring to because the Islamic Republic is now using the Haaretz article to justify claiming that um, Iranian dissidents who are fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic are, in fact, Mossad agents and are Israeli and are paid by Israel. And they actually forced someone today, and we'll get into that, and I'll share the video with you. They forced him to confess to being an Israeli agent. What's also messed up is that they also forced him to confess to giving out information to the Israeli military during the 12-day conflict between Israel and the Islamic Republic. But the messed up part here is that this guy was actually arrested and put into solitary confinement 6 months prior to the 12-day conflict between Israel and the Islamic Republic. So, how the hell could someone who was arrested 6 months prior to the Israeli Islamic regime conflict, how could he provide information during the 12-day conflict when he was arrested 6 months prior and was in solitary confinement? And then the Islamic Republic actually today, just a few hours ago, forced him to go live, like basically forced him to go on TV and to confess to being an Israeli agent. That in and of itself is absolutely horrifying. But what's even more horrifying is that he basically sealed his death sentence because the crime for um, even if you just hold a flag of Israel inside of occupied Iran, you don't have to be connected to them, you don't have to support them or anything like that. But if you literally just hold up a flag of Israel, that's a crime punishable by death. So imagine now this person, and I'll get into him and I'll explain more about him. Imagine what must be going through his mind, knowing that after like um, almost 8 months of solitary confinement by the most brutal dictatorship in the world, the Islamic Republic. Um, they forced him to confess to being an Israeli agent, and they forced him to confess to giving out information during the 12-day conflict, even though he was in solitary confinement during the 12-day conflict. So how the hell could he even give out um, give out any information? And the Islamic Republic used the fake news article put out by Haaretz a few days ago as proof that this guy is an Israeli agent. Like, this is how messed up it is, right? So when we Iranians, when we call out these fake news publications, when we try to explain that putting out fake news like this that actually supports the Islamic Republic, this isn't just hurting someone's feelings. You're not hurting our feelings by doing this. You are literally putting our lives at risk. Okay, so right now, the way I see it, Haaretz and the entire editorial board, as well as those two journalists who wrote that trash tabloid article, have blood on their hands. They are now responsible for the upcoming execution of Iranians who are now going to be executed by the Islamic Republic, because the Islamic Republic literally today broadcast, aired the Haaretz article, using that as justification to claim that this poor innocent Iranian man is a Mossad agent, right? So this is the reality of being Iranian, and non-Iranians, they don't understand this. When those of us, when we speak out, we are literally putting our lives at risk. Now, of course, those of us who are outside of Iran, we are a little bit safer, but not by much, not by much, because the Islamic Republic um, has um, has agents all over the world, right? They are known for murdering Iranian dissidents, kidnapping Iranian dissidents. They do it all the time. It is horrifying. So even those of us who are outside of the country, just by speaking up, we are literally putting our lives at risk. So imagine how much more dangerous it is if you are inside of occupied Iran, and um, this is why Iranians inside of the country, when they want to talk about the oppression, when they want to talk about um, overthrowing the Islamic Republic, they can't use their actual names. They can't use real photos of themselves. Nothing like that. They cannot give any information about who they are, because doing so puts their lives at risk. And this gentleman, and I'm going to bring him up, and we're going to speak about him, because my feed is literally flooded right now with Iranians speaking out about him and trying to raise awareness ever since the news came out. His only crime was being a Twitter activist. His only crime was speaking out against the Islamic Republic. His only crime was wanting to live in a free Iran with no Sharia law and without, that Islamic dictatorship. And for that crime, the Islamic Republic forced him. God, it's like such it's horrifying to say, right? Like this is the worst nightmare. This is what we this is what we're fighting against. They forced him to confess to being an Israeli agent, even though he's obviously not, because the Islamic Republic has literally never captured an actual Mossad agent. Mossad is too smart for them. They're too sophisticated. Islamic Republic's never going to capture them. But the Islamic Republic will use innocent Iranians as scapegoats to try and portray this image of power or whatever. The only thing the Islamic Republic is really good at doing is murdering Iranians. That's it. They're good at murdering Iranians. They're good at poisoning school children. They're good at raping women before murdering them. They're good at forcing men to give these like forced fake confessions for crimes never committed, for things that didn't happen, and then they execute them. So I'm going to play. Honestly, like I haven't even watched it myself because I I wasn't able to watch it myself, because just the thought of these forced confessions is just such a um, horrifying thing. And so I'm gonna play it here, and then I guess we can all watch it together. But just the thought of seeing this, it really makes me nauseous, because as Iranians, we all know what these forced confessions lead to, because we've been seeing it for 47 years. The forced confession. First of all, just imagine how much he went under torture, right? Under torture to get to the point of making this forced confession. And they probably, not only tortured him, but they said, if you don't confess, we're going to murder your family, your friends, like everyone you love or whatever, care about, right? Like that's how they get these forced confessions out of Iranians. And then we all know that after this forced confession, that person doesn't have much longer to live, right? The forced confession is a prelude to being executed, and so his life is now literally in danger. He could be executed at any point in time. And so, you know, one of the reasons that we Iranians, we fight so hard against this misinformation. We try so hard to fight back against, this leftist narrative and anyone who spreads any sort of propaganda or news that in any way, shape, or form helps the Islamic Republic is because of this exact scenario. Because when you promote the Islamic Republic, when you promote their narrative, when you promote their ideology, you are legitimizing their narrative and you are giving them the tools they need to murder innocent Iranians who are legitimately trying to overthrow the Islamic Republic. I mean, this is a dictatorship. This is arguably the most brutal dictatorship in the history of civilization. The most brutal dictatorship in the history of civilization. They will stop at nothing in order to legitimize their existence and to guarantee their own survival, to the point where they are now literally quoting and using Haaretz and their garbage fake news article as justification for the upcoming execution of this innocent Iranian. So here, let me find the video, and I will we'll watch it together. I think Emily Schrader. Here we go. So she has God, like, okay, so she has a version like with transcripts. So again, for context, here we go. So where is this? So so for context, this video that I'm about to show you was broadcast on Islamic Regime State TV. Okay, so this is literally a few hours ago. Islamic Regime State TV broadcast this, and again, the media inside of occupied Iran is all controlled by the Islamic Republic, right? So that's why we as Iranians, we never rely on news coming from the Islamic Republic. We only rely on citizen journalism. So let's watch this together. And of course, this woman is a mouthpiece for the Islamic Republic. So you are all now going to get a firsthand look at the propaganda by the Islamic Republic. You're also going to get a firsthand look of how they make innocent Iranians confess to crimes that they have not committed, and then they execute them. So what you're about to see is the first step. And I guarantee you that he has been tortured prior to this forced confession, where they basically forced him to claim that he was a Mossad agent. So let's watch this together, I guess. So yeah. All right, here we go. Let me just make this big.
صهیونیست‌ها چطور از ربات‌های مجازی و عوامل سلطنت طلب در طول 12 روز تجاوز به خاک ایران استفاده کردند؟
پیجی درست کردم در توییتر، بعد گذاشتمش جیمز بیگ.
برای اینکه دیده شود شروع می‌کند به توهین به مقدسات. کمی که می‌گذرد برای خودش اسم در می‌کند در فضای مجازی. گوید سلطنت طلب است.
توی بهار 402 که رضا پهلوی به اسرائیل رفت، این بود که من با اون جریان پیش رفتم و رفتم به اون سمت و از ایشون حمایت کردم. دیوار نویسی کردیم، براش بسیار توییت زدم، توییت هاش رو ریتوییت کردم و ازش حمایت کردم.
جیمز و دار و دستش با شکست آشوب‌ها در ایران مأموریتشان تغییر می‌کند. بعد از سفر پهلوی به سرزمین‌های اشغال شده، پا را از گلیمشان درازتر هم می‌کنند. در فضای مجازی می‌نویسند بیایید به ایران حمله کنید. جز افرادی مثل جیمز و دار و دسته‌اش، صهیونیست‌ها برای پیشبرد اهدافشان از طریق و یا به نام پهلوی یک لشکر سایبری از ربات‌ها هم راه انداخته بودند. این را روزنامه صهیونیستی هارتز فاش کرده، موضوعی که خیانت‌های پهلوی را باز هم سر زبان‌ها انداخته و او را رسواتر کرده، حتی میان طرفداران سابقش.
کارزار رضا پهلوی کاملا تحت الحمایه در دولت آقای نتانیاهوست، تماما از اونجا داره اداره میشه. قبلا هم این کارو کرده بود.
محمد جواد رضا سلطانی، خبرگزاری صدا و سیما.
So I'm going to play that video again. That was the first time that I watched it. I'm going to play it again, and I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to show you all exactly how they lie and they manipulate the truth to twist the narrative and to get these stories. So let's go back again. This is Islamic regime state TV. It's pure propaganda. Like everything that they say in this news, whatever, it's not news. It's like Big Brother, right? It's literally you are watching Orwellian dystopia in the making. And the lies that they put out there is horrific. And of course they relied, like they're literally quoting and displaying the Haaretz article. Okay, let's watch this. Let's watch this from the beginning. So watch again.
صهیونیست‌ها چطور از ربات‌های مجازی و عوامل سلطنت طلب در طول 12 روز تجاوز به خاک ایران استفاده کردند؟
So in this part, she says, how did the Zionists use, bots and supporters of the monarchy? So that right in and of itself is a major lie. I debunked that lie. I debunked that lie in my live today, because the Haaretz article wrongly claims, without any proof, that Israel funded, or Israel is funding, the Iranian opposition, including King Reza Pahlavi, which is, anti-Semitic blood libel, but it's also Iranian blood libel. Because when you look at the actual study that they quote, and I broke down the study earlier today, the study was by Citizen Lab. The study cites about 37 to 50 bots, and none of those bots have anything to do with people who support King Reza Pahlavi. They call them monarchists. The study had nothing to do with the monarchist supporters. It had nothing to do with King Reza Pahlavi. There was no mention of any sort of connection or link between King Reza Pahlavi and those bots. However, Haaretz just, for whatever reason, and I think at this point we need to find out what that reason is, and I think we need to go after Haaretz, and I'll get into that, because I have to think more on this, but I think Haaretz needs to pay. I think the journalists who wrote that blood libel need to pay. I think the Haaretz editorial board needs to pay. Like, I want them sued into non-existence. I want to start some sort of class action lawsuit. I don't know how it works, but Haaretz needs to go down. Haaretz needs to go down because their fake news article has now resulted in the imminent execution of an innocent Iranian and perhaps several dozens or possibly hundreds more. So again, here, so she like just look at the preface of this question, right? How did the Zionists use virtual bots and monarchist agents during the 12 days of aggression? It didn't happen. It didn't happen. So the fact that the Islamic Republic propaganda outlet is already like and again, like this is how this fake news propaganda works, right? Like they're not saying, oh, did this happen? They are, the question already assumes that the Iranian opposition is funded by Israel and it's not legitimate, right? So this is the Islamic Republic using the Haaretz article to attack those who want to overthrow it and maintain its legitimacy. This is how an Islamic dictatorship operates, right? Like this is how a totalitarian dictatorship operates. So that's the first part.
10 روز
So already, like within the first 2 seconds, this video is already using the Haaretz article to justify executing an Iranian.
تجاوز به خاک ایران استفاده کردند.
پیجی درست کردم در توییتر.
So this person speaking right now, this is the Iranian prisoner. His persona was James Biden. His name is Mir. What is it? I have it here. I don't want to. I don't want to say it incorrectly. Mir Hossein Mustafi. So his name is Mir Hossein Mustafi. This guy right here. Okay, so Amir Hossein Mustafi. So oh wait, wrong tab. Okay, here we go. So this is the guy. Okay, Amir Hossein Mustafi. And then here you see like that was his persona, James Biden. So this is him, this is his wife, and both him and his wife were arrested and put in solitary confinement by the Islamic Republic 6 months prior to the 12-day conflict between Israel and the Islamic Republic. And he, just like the thousands, if not millions, of Iranians who are active on social media. He used a fake profile. He used a fake photo in order to remain secure. But obviously, there was a security breach. And I'm digging more into this. And, my feed has been flooded with Iranians speaking about this, but from what I'm seeing, my understanding is that he made the unfortunate mistake of giving his information to people that I guess he thought were going to help him, and that information ended up in the hands of the Islamic Republic. And then he was arrested, and his wife was arrested as well. And again, his only crime was speaking out about the Islamic Republic. Like his crime was wanting to overthrow the Islamic Republic, right? Like he wanted to live in a free and democratic society. So this is him here, Amir Hossein Mustafi, and I'll go through my Twitter feed, my X feed in a bit, and I'll show you some of the posts by the other big Iranian accounts and what they're posting in Farsi, because this is hitting all of us very hard. It's of course especially hitting Iranians inside of Iran very hard, because what happened to him could have happened to any one of them, right? And that's the daily fear and horror that Iranians inside of occupied Iran face with, right? Like, this is what it means to live under Sharia law. This is what it means to live in an Islamic dictatorship. So let's just go back and like listen to his forced confession. And again, this forced confession, these are words that the Islamic Republic has put in his mouth, forcing him to confess, right? So we all know, like as Iranians, we all know that none of this is true. But the Islamic Republic is now using the Haaretz article to make it seem as if this forced confession is legitimate, right? So let's watch this again. So basically they're trying to smear him by saying, you know, in order to go viral and become visible, he started swearing at you know, like who does he swear at? So it says religious sanctities. So basically, you know, he says like, you know, he attacks Khamenei, he attacks the clerics. So basically, he's attacking the Islamic Republic, right? So he is speaking out against the Islamic Republic because he wants to overthrow the Islamic Republic, like the vast majority of us do, because we don't want to live in. Okay, let me just respond to this one person. Okay, امیرجی ببین من به فارسی برنامه نمیذارم. من قصدم از این لایو استریم ها اینه که مسائل فارسی رو به زبان انگلیسی توضیح بدم. اگه دوست ندارین برین یه کانال فارسی زبون پیدا بکنین. 1000 تا کانال فارسی زبون هست، برین اونجا. من اینجا هستم که این مسائل رو به زبان انگلیسی توضیح بدم و ترجمه بکنم. اگه دوست نداری برو جای دیگه. Anyways, sorry, I just wanted to say that really quickly. You know, sometimes I get people who come in and they're like, oh, you're Iranian, why don't you speak Farsi? And I'm like, buddy, there's so many Iranian YouTube channels out there. Like, if you want these, you know, these issues explained in Farsi, go, you know, find a Farsi YouTuber and follow them. Like, my purpose here is to explain what's happening in Iran to non-Iranians. And so I will speak English. I'm unapologetic about that, because there are not that many YouTube channels who take what's happening in Farsi and then translate it into English and provide the context in English. So there you go. Anyway, so where was I? So again, like this you know, this Iranian guy in occupied Iran, he is speaking out against the Islamic Republic, which in Iran is a crime punishable by death, right? So even in where was it? So even in the news article, you know, here that they're talking about, they say he starts insulting religious sanctities as if it's like it's such a big crime, right? And for those of you who are wondering whether or not this is similar to what's happening in Western countries, 100%. So this, you know, the whole Islamophobia garbage nonsense that the Islamists in Western countries talk about, that Islamophobia is a precursor to this, right? Because if they gain power, and if they gain the ability to create blasphemy laws, this is the end result. The end result is you literally end up like occupied Iran, where you are governed and controlled by Sharia law. And in Sharia law, criticizing religion or speaking out against religion is a crime punishable by death. And as you see here, like the fact that he's literally like, you know, criticizing, you know, not even the religion itself. He's literally criticizing, he's criticizing the Islamic Republic. That in and of itself is newsworthy, right? Like, so they're basically implying that criticizing the Islamic Republic is legitimate grounds to be arrested. Okay, so that's what the messaging here means. So let's just continue.
دسات کمی که میگذرد برای خودش اسم در میکند در فضای مجازی گوید سلطنت طلب است.
So this is important. So here where they say he claims to be a monarchist. Why do they say he claims to be a monarchist? Because again, the only legitimate opposition to the Islamic Republic is King Reza Pahlavi, and it's the people who support him. Now, interestingly enough, the people who support him are not all monarchists, right? Like I myself, I am a big advocate of constitutional monarchy. I was a politician in Canada for 7 years. Canada is a constitutional monarchy. Prior to the Islamic Republic taking over Iran in 1979, Iran was also a constitutional monarchy. That's what I would personally like to go back to. But one thing that King Reza Pahlavi has said is he has said that the whatever type of democratic system of government that comes into place after the fall of the Islamic Republic will be decided at the ballot box. So whether or not Iranians want a constitutional monarchy or a republic, that's going to be decided by a national referendum after the fall of the Islamic regime. However, the reason that the Islamic Republic is attacking the monarchists is because everyone knows that the monarchists are the biggest and most powerful group, and it is a grassroots movement, right? So it is a legitimate grassroots movement. The vast majority of us want to go back to what Iran was before, and the Islamic Republic also knows that the only person who can overthrow them is King Reza Pahlavi. He is the only one inside of Iran and outside of Iran who has been able to unite all of us. And that is why they are scared of him. That is why they attack him. That is why they attack his supporters. And this is why. And so, again, this sentence here, where the Islamic Republic says that the person they arrested claims to be a monarchist, is because they are setting the stage to use the Haaretz article to claim that this guy is not a monarchist. This guy is actually an Israeli agent, and that there are no actual monarchists, because the Haaretz article wrote that the Iranian opposition is actually a psyops funded by Israel. So this is what this is being set up for. So again, this is why a lot of Iranians are livid at Haaretz. This is why a lot of us are now thinking that maybe we need to start some sort of legal action against against Haaretz. Sorry, I'm just getting a message here. I have a lot of people messaging me. They're like, "Have you seen this video? This video that that I'm speaking about right now?" Let me just see. Sorry. So like this video is making the rounds. Like my phone is blowing up with notifications where people are like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen this? You need to talk about it. You need to show it." Because again, this is how horrifying this is. But here's the thing. So this is why many of us are thinking we need to go after Haaretz in some way, because it's, you know, it's one thing to just write a fake news article for the likes and the clicks or whatever. But it's another thing when you write a fake news article about a life or death situation, and then a brutal totalitarian dictatorship uses your fake article to force a confession out of someone and execute them and turn them into a scapegoat simply in order to claim that there is no legitimate Iranian opposition, right? So that's what the Haaretz article did, and you're literally going to see Islamic regime state media broadcast an Israeli publication. That is how messed up this situation is. So let's just continue.
نبست.
توی بهار 402 که رضا پهلوی به اسرائیل رفت این بود که من با اون جریان پیش رفتم و رفتم به اون سمت.
So now they're taking these truths and they're attributing it to him. The reality is that when King Reza Pahlavi visited Israel in 2023, many of us, including myself, were thrilled, right? Again, one of the things that the Iranian opposition will do as soon as the Islamic Republic is overthrown is they will normalize relations with Israel, right? Because prior to 1979, Israel and Iran were very, very close allies, right? So they were incredibly close allies, and Israel tried very hard to dissuade Jimmy Carter from supporting Khamenei and the Islamic, revolution in 1979. Unfortunately, they failed to do so. And one of the things as well, and I've spoken about this in previous shows, but I'll bring it up again because it's so important. One of the key pillars of the Islamic Republic is the fake Palestinian cause, right? One of their key pillars is this never-ending jihad with Israel, right? So the Islamic Republic has spent more money promoting its war and funding its war with Israel through propaganda, through social media, through its terror proxies than they have invested in Iranians in the country themselves. And there's a reason that Iranians, when they are protesting against the Islamic Republic, they will chant "Na Gaza, na Lebanon, Janam Fadai Iran," which means no to Gaza, no to Lebanon, my life for Iran. So what they're referring to when they say no to Gaza is, of course, no to Hamas. They don't want the Islamic Republic funding Hamas. And when they say no to Lebanon, they're referring to Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is 100% funded by the Islamic Republic. So, they chant no to Gaza, no to Lebanon, my life for Iran, because Iranians are sick and tired of their money, money that should be going to invest in Iran in the country, being used to fund terrorism in the Middle East in this never-ending jihad. So the reason that the Islamic Republic is so worried about the Iranian opposition is because we have made it very clear that when the Islamic Republic is overthrown, we will normalize relations with Israel, and they don't want that, right? So that's why they're now bringing up this trip that King Reza Pahlavi had 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, and then they're forcing him to say, "Oh, I went along with it. I supported." I mean, we all did, all Iranians, and everyone supported it because that's what we want. We do not want a war with Israel. We do not want jihad with Israel. Okay, this war is a war that the Islamic Republic started when they occupied Iran in 1979. It is not my war. It is not his war. It is not Iranians' war. It is the war of the Islamic Republic, which is a terrorist dictatorship that is occupying the country of Iran. And now they are forcing this innocent man to, to say these words and to portray him as an Israeli agent. So let's just continue here.
و از ایشون حمایت کردم، دیوار نویسی کردیم، براش بسیار توییت زدم، توییت هاش رو ریتوییت کردم و از
So see, part of his forced confession is to confess to retweeting King Reza Pahlavi, right? Like again, this is the reality of living in a brutal Islamic dictatorship. The fact that just retweeting King Reza Pahlavi is a crime, is noteworthy, right? This is how scared the Islamic Republic is of the Iranian opposition, that they are now literally trying to use an innocent Iranian man as a scapegoat to delegitimize the movement. And this guy, his crime was being active on social media. His crime was, using his platform on social media to retweet and share posts and show his support for King Reza Pahlavi.
حمایت کردم.
جیمز و دار و دستش
So see here, like they have a photo of him, and they're like, putting the Star of David in front of him to imply that he is a Jewish agent, right? Like they're basically implying that he's Mossad or whatever.
با شکست آشوب‌ها در ایران مأموریتشان تغییر می‌کند. بعد از سفر پهلوی به سرزمین‌های اشغال شده
So, they refer to Israel as the occupied territory. So again, you can clearly see here the language and the narrative that the Islamic Republic uses to describe Israel. They call it, the Zionists. They also refer to it as occupied territories. This is the same narrative that you see in the pro-Hamas demonstrations, right? Like the people who claim they are pro-Palestine, this is the language that they use. This is why their, pardon my language, bullshit doesn't fly with us Iranians, because we Iranians, we are used to this jihadi Islamofascist language, right? That's why we call out their bullshit. That's why they don't like us. There's a reason why Palestinians have never supported the Iranian movement to overthrow the Islamic Republic. We are literally directly in conflict with each other, right? Because the Palestinians, being a bunch of like Islamic terrorist jihadis with their terrorist civilization, it's not even a civilization, they're terrorist enclaves or whatever garbage it is. They are funded by the Islamic Republic. Their narrative and ideology is promoted by the Islamic Republic. So again, like the Zionist regime, the occupied territories, right? Like you never see this journalist say the word Israel. He never says Israel. They say either Zionist or occupied territories. Again, this is the exact same tactic that the pro-Palestine terrorists use in the West, right? Like when you look at their language and everything, they never usually say Israel. They'll say the Zionist regime or whatever other garbage, jihadi, terrorist nonsense. So this is why they don't like Iranians, because we call them out, because this is the truth that they want to hide from Westerners. This rhetoric, this jihadi Islamofascist rhetoric that is very, very common in the Middle East. They want to try and normalize this narrative in Western society, right? So again, let's go back, and you could see like they have all these Jewish symbols, and they're implying that this poor innocent Iranian man is a Mossad agent or Israeli agent or whatever, but they never say the word Israel, right? They say Zionist, or they say occupied territories. This is how Islamists operate. So use this and compare this to what you're seeing in Western countries, and understand that this is an invasion. This is an Islamic invasion. This is jihad. And if you don't speak up about it, God forbid, what's happening to this innocent Iranian man could happen to you. Could happen to you if you're not vigilant. Okay, so let's go back and watch again a forced confession on Islamic regime state TV. That, by the way, was bolstered by a far left Haaretz article.
با شکست آشوب‌ها در ایران مأموریتشان تغییر می‌کند. بعد از سفر پهلوی به سرزمین‌های اشغال شده، پا را از گلیمشان درازتر هم می‌کنند. در فضای مجازی می‌نویسند: بیایید به ایران حمله کنید.
So these photos that you're seeing here, okay, these photos were not just shared by this one account. These photos were shared by many accounts, including me. I shared these photos as well. I'm definitely not an Israeli agent, right? But one of the ways that Iranians communicate with the outside world is through social media. One of the ways that they're able to convey messages is by spray painting on graffiti, taking a picture, putting it on social media, and sharing it with others so that others can share it. Because again, there is no legitimate media outlets in the Islamic Republic. It is a totalitarian Islamic dictatorship, right? So you cannot rely on the media. The media is basically just a mouthpiece for the Islamic regime. Again, it's a dictatorship. So the only way that we get news of what's going on is through citizen journalism. The only way that Iranians inside of occupied Iran are able to share with the world what they are thinking, what they are feeling, is through social media. Now, having said that, social media is banned inside of Iran, right? So even though the Islamic Republic, all their government officials, they all have what's the word I'm looking for? So they all have um, like X accounts, right? They all have X accounts, but it's actually banned. So in order to safely access social media, whether it's Instagram or X or whatever the case might be, you need to use a VPN. And then on top of that, you still cannot use your name or your face, because if you do so, you're putting your life at risk, as you can see with this gentleman right here, right? Like his X account was called James Biden, and he used like a random photo. The only people now, let me say, there are people inside of occupied Iran who use their real name and use their real image. Those people are 100% affiliated with the Islamic Republic. I'm telling you right now. Oh, James B. Dean. There you go. That's true. Okay, so James B. Dean. Good point. So I keep on saying Biden, but it's actually B. Dean. That's just my English accent coming out. So James B. Dean means James with no religion. So B means no, and Dean means religion. So his name was James without religion, which in and of itself is one way of fighting back against the Islamic Republic, right? So he's basically saying, he rejects all religion. He just wants to live in a secular democracy. Again, that is a crime, right? Because the Islamic Republic is governed by Sharia law. Saying that you don't want to live in, a religious society is a crime punishable by death in and of itself. Yeah, no, I know that was his fake name, John. I see your comment there. His name was Amir Hossein Mustafi. I know that, but I'm talking about his pseudonym here. But anyway, so again, so the Islamic Republic is now pointing to these photos, blaming him. But these photos were taken all around the country, and they were spread widely by everyone. But again, these tweets in and of itself are basically enough to warrant being arrested by the Islamic Republic. So this is why Iranians inside of Iran will never share their image or their name or anything like that, because doing so is literally putting your life at risk. And I've always said this, and I'll continue to say it: the only Iranians inside of occupied Iran who can safely share their name or their image are those who are part of the regime, because X is banned. X is banned inside of Iran. So you cannot actually use X at all, like it's illegal. Only people who are affiliated with the Islamic regime have access to social media. So let's just continue.
جز افرادی مثل جیمز و دار و دسته‌اش، صهیونیست‌ها برای پیشبرد اهدافشان از طریق
So here you can see they're now referring to the Haaretz article, right? So the Islamic Republic is literally broadcasting and promoting an article written by Haaretz, which is, Israeli media. Now, of course, it's far left Israeli media. It's basically a trash tabloid. But imagine how messed up it is. How messed up it is that the Islamic Republic is actually using a far left Israeli publication to justify its fake news, right? Like they're now basically using this article that was written by some far left idiots, I guess. I don't know. They're using that to justify. They're using it to claim that that innocent man is actually an Israeli agent, and that the entire movement to overthrow the Islamic Republic is fake. This is the danger that far left activists put us in, and Haaretz has blood on their hands. They have blood on their hands because I went through the Haaretz article in my live stream earlier today. It's on my YouTube. You can go check it out. And they rely on a study by Citizen Lab to make these bogus allegations. And at no point, and I went and I looked at the Citizen Lab article, and the Citizen Lab research article is available on their profile. Anyone can access it, anyone can read it. And at no point in that article, in that research paper, did the Citizen Lab ever mention Pahlavi. Again, Pahlavi is the leader of the Iranian opposition. So, here he is right here. So at no point did the Citizen study ever refer to Pahlavi, never mentioned him, never even made any sort of implication in the slightest that whatever AI bots they were referring to had anything to do with Pahlavi. If anything, the AI bots seemed to be more connected to the communists and the MEK and the Islamic Republic itself, because many of those bots were actually tweeting pictures of Khamenei and promoting Khamenei. But Haaretz didn't care about that. Haaretz, for whatever reason, decided to implicate King Reza Pahlavi and implicate the legitimate Iranian opposition. I don't know why. Was there money behind this? Were these people paid? It seems to be a very coordinated, concerted effort. I have a sneaking suspicion that these journalists were paid off by the Islamic Republic, if not the Islamic Republic themselves, but the Islamic regime lobby groups. Again, I spoke about the lobby groups in my space earlier today. One thing that was really interesting is that these so-called journalists who wrote this fake news article, they were retweeting NIAC. NIAC is the National Iranian American Council. And the National Iranian American Council is the lobby group of the Islamic Republic occupying Iran in the United States. And they try to deny it, but Iranians have been sounding the alarm. And in fact, about 10 years ago, they took an Iranian in the United States to court on a defamation lawsuit because they wanted to basically make the case that Iranians claiming that NIAC, the National Iranian American Council, is affiliated with the Islamic Republic is defamatory. So they dragged this guy to court, and then the court looked at all the documents and all the evidence, and the judge ended up determining that based on the overwhelming documentation and evidence before it, it was reasonable to make the assumption that Nayak is affiliated with the Islamic Republic, and the Iranian man was totally justified in saying that, and it was not defamatory. So, you know, that's basically the judge saying, yeah, you guys are with the Islamic Republic, without actually saying it. So now, you know, these far left Israeli journalists who wrote this article are promoting Nayak. So there is a direct connection between those journalists and Nayak. I also question the timing of this article and why it came out now. And you know, if I was an Israeli law enforcement, or I don't know, counterterrorism, or, you know, whatever the case might be, I would be looking into the finances of these journalists, especially crypto as well, or, you know, cryptocurrency or whatever, because it's very inorganic for someone to attack Reza Pahlavi. The only people who attack Reza Pahlavi, you know, they're either with the Islamic Republic, or they're, you know, communists and MEK, right? It's the army of the red and the black. It's the same group of people, the same ideology that united in the late 1970s to overthrow the Shah at the time, Shah Aryamer. And once again, we're seeing this unity of the red and the black, right? So you have to ask yourself, why is this far left Israeli media publication attacking King Reza Pahlavi, but they're not attacking the Islamic Republic itself? You know, why is it always the far left? Why is it always these communists and these socialists and, you know, these garbage people with their garbage ideology who claim that, you know, they're all about rights and freedom and whatever, and yet they would rather support a brutal Islamic dictatorship than the people fighting to overthrow it? There's something not right here. There's something not right. I think there's some sort of money involved. I think there's some sort of money laundering or something, because as soon as this article came out, NIAC, which again, National Iranian American Council, they are the lobby group of the Islamic Republic in the United States. NIAC came out with like this insane video right away, which took this story and bolstered it even more, added on even more lies to it. So I'm just going to go back now that I've given you guys some context. Again, it's you know, as an Iranian, it's very difficult to watch this because every single word is a lie, every single word is fabricated. But you know, this is the propaganda that we Iranians have been dealing with for 47 years. This is how they have constantly attempted to gaslight us. And the fact that the far left Israeli media has now become a propaganda mouthpiece for the Islamic Republic. It's more than just propaganda. They have now put Iranian lives in danger, and Iranians are going to be executed because of this article. Because again, like everything that they forced that Iranian man to admit to, these are all crimes punishable by death. This is what you guys need to understand, right? Like what he's saying. I mean, if this was in Canada, you know, people would just shrug their shoulders and move on. But what he's speaking about, these are crimes punishable by death in occupied Iran. You know, when we speak about a brutal Islamic dictatorship that is a 1984 Orwellian dystopia, this is what we're speaking about, right? Like when we're fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic, it's not just about hijab or what to wear. It's literally about basic human rights, because when you speak out, you are putting your life at risk. Again, let's just go back. Now that you have the context, we'll watch it from the beginning. Here, just go back to the beginning here. So again, for those of you who've just tuned in, this is the it's a news piece by the Islamic Republic. It's their propaganda, right? So everything coming out of the Islamic Republic is propaganda. And the Islamic Republic is using the Haaretz article to justify murdering innocent Iranians by accusing them of being Israeli agents. Well, welcome to being an Iranian. Welcome to the horrific reality of being Iranian. This is what we literally have been dealing with for 47 years. And now Haaretz has blood on their hands. Haaretz has blood on their hands. And I don't think we're going to let this go, because this has gone too far. This is more than just a baseless publication. This is blood libel, and people are going to die because of Haaretz's article. Here, let's I'm going to make the screen big, and let's just, I guess, watch it from the beginning here. Here we go.
صهیونیست‌ها چطور از ربات‌های مجازی و عوامل سلطنت طلب در طول 12 روز تجاوز به خاک ایران استفاده کردند؟
پیجی درست کردم در توییتر، بعد گذاشتمش جیمز بیدی.
برای اینکه دیده شود شروع می‌کند به توهین به مقدسات. کمی که می‌گذرد برای خودش اسم در می‌کند در فضای مجازی. گوید سلطنت طلب است.
توی بهار 402 که رضا پهلوی به اسرائیل رفت، این بود که من با اون جریان پیش رفتم و رفتم به اون سمت و از ایشون حمایت کردم. دیوار نویسی کردیم، براش بسیار توییت زدم، توییت هاش رو ریتوییت کردم و ازش حمایت کردم.
جیمز و دار و دستش با شکست آشوب‌ها در ایران مأموریتشان تغییر می‌کند. بعد از سفر پهلوی به سرزمین‌های اشغال شده، پا را از گلیمشان درازتر هم می‌کنند. در فضای مجازی می‌نویسند: بیایید به ایران حمله کنید. جز افرادی مثل جیمز و دار و دستش، صهیونیست‌ها برای پیشبرد اهدافشان از طریق و یا به نام پهلوی یک لشکر سایبری از ربات‌ها هم راه انداخته بودند. این را روزنامه صهیونیستی هارتز فاش کرده، موضوعی که خیانت‌های پهلوی را باز هم سر زبان‌ها انداخته و او را رسواتر کرده، حتی میان طرفداران سابقش.
کارزار رضا پهلوی کاملا تحت الحمایه در دولت آقای نتانیاهوست، تماما از اونجا داره اداره میشه. قبلا هم این کارو کرده بود.
محمد جواد رضا سلطانی، خبرگزاری صدا و سیما.
There you go. I mean, I don't know what to say. This is what happens to people in occupied Iran. This is what happens when you dare to speak out against a brutal, totalitarian, Islamofascist dictatorship. he didn't, his crime was wanting to live in a free society. And by saying what he said, he basically sealed his fate, and his fate is to be hung. And yet there are still people in the West who not only try to legitimize the Islamic Republic, but they support the Islamic Republic. They literally support the people who are murdering us every single day. And I'm going to speak more about this tomorrow during my show. So my regular show, I schedule it for weekdays, 12 noon Eastern time, Toronto time. So make sure that you're following me. You're subscribed to me on YouTube. And that way you can get the notifications or whatever, and you can join me on YouTube and watch the live there. But we need to go after Haaretz. I'm going to speak with some people. I'm going to see what can be done, because I don't think that we should let this slide. This is more than just an article. This is more than just a fake news article, right? Like, I mean, if you wrote this article about someone in any other country, it wouldn't be a big deal. Like, it would be whatever, right? Because those countries have civil rights. There's freedom of expression, freedom of association. But when you write these sort of blood libels about Iranians, especially Iranians who are trying to overthrow a brutal Islamic dictatorship, you are enabling the Islamic Republic to justify murdering innocent Iranians by relying on your fake news to murder Iranians and silence them, right? So the Islamic Republic is now using the Haaretz article to claim that there is no legitimate opposition, to claim that this is all an Israeli psyops. And shame on Haaretz, or Haaretz, however it's pronounced, however they pronounce their garbage tabloid. Shame on you. Shame on your editorial board. Shame on, the people that you call journalists. I mean, did no one bother to fact check? Did no one bother to fact check your fake news article to see if it was even true? I mean, I guess not, right? I guess not, because Haaretz is the kind of publication that, calls Hamas freedom fighters. So what the hell can you expect from a publication that calls a bunch of inbred, savage, mouth-breathing jihadi terrorists as freedom fighters, right? Like, when they do that, like, what hope do Iranians have? Anyways, I'll probably have, like, I'll definitely have more to say on this tomorrow. My feed has been so incredibly depressing. Um, I'll probably share my feed, tomorrow. I'll share the posts that people are making in Farsi, because this is, of course, going viral um, on Farsi X, and people are outraged. They're outraged, especially Iranians inside of Iran, because they're looking at this situation, and this could be any one of them, right? I mean, none of them are using their real names. None of them are using their real images. And none of them have the luxury of doing what I'm doing, right? Like, I'm outside of the country. I'm outside of Iran. Even now, I'm still risking my safety by speaking out, because the Islamic Republic is known for attacking and um, kidnapping and murdering Iranian dissidents who speak out against them outside of the country. But, even though I'm putting my life at risk, it's not as risky as those inside of Iran, right? Like this this is what it's like to be Iranian, and a lot of people. I don't think any people really understand this. Those who are being persecuted by their governments understand, but like, our reality as Iranians is like, okay, we're going to speak out against the Islamic regime. Um, how risky is it when it comes to dying, right? Like, okay, so I'm in Canada, so the risk of dying, it's still a legitimate risk. I still have to be very careful, but the risk is not as high as if I was in Iran, right? Like that's the mental gymnastics that we go through. That's the trauma that we have to deal with on a constant basis as Iranians, right? It's like, I cannot even imagine, you know, as a Canadian, like, people, and I was a politician in Canada for 7 years, right? I got criticized left, right, and center. Anything and everything you can possibly think of. People criticized me, they swore at me, like, they made up lies about me, they called me names. I received death threats as a politician. But never once in, those 7 years as an elected official did I ever once even think of, like, oh, that's inappropriate, like, I want to arrest that person, or that person must pay. It's like, no. Criticism is legitimate. I might not like the criticism, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's every Canadian's right to say what they want to say, of course, within reason, right? Like, don't, like, I mean, the death threats were a little bit too far, and of course I did report the death threats to the police, because, for my own safety. But I never, like, said to someone, oh, you should be jailed or executed for that, right? Like, it's something that's even beyond the bounds of what someone would even entertain in civilized society, right? But as an Iranian, I deal constantly with that thought of, okay, do I risk being murdered today by the Islamic Republic for speaking out, right? And it's a thought that crosses every single Iranian person's mind. Those who speak out against the Islamic Republic. Of course, there are many who don't. Many out of fear, many who've just, like, tuned out, like, they've just checked out, like, they cannot emotionally deal with the stress and the trauma. And of course, we don't blame them. And then there's many people who have Stockholm syndrome as well. But those of us who speak out, it's literally this mental gymnastics of how much am I risking my life by speaking out against a brutal Islamic dictatorship. And that's just the reality of being Iranian. That's literally the reality of being Iranian. It's like this this dual life that that we lead. And we talk about it a lot, but I guess a lot of people, either it's hard to believe or it's hard to understand. But with this example here with James Biden, I hope that this at least provides you with a little bit of insight into the horrific reality of being an Iranian. And I hope it provides you with a little bit of insight into why we are fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic. We are literally fighting for our freedoms. We are fighting for our right to live. We are literally fighting for a normal country, right? Like right now, the Iranian political discourse is not around things like education or healthcare or infrastructure, things that like, normal political discourse. The political discourse, um, when it comes to Iran is um, whether or not someone's going to lose their life for speaking out against the Islamic Republic. The political discourse is how many people were executed this month for speaking out against the Islamic regime. The political discourse is how many women were raped by their prison guards. The political discourse is how many school children were gassed by the Islamic Republic in order to discourage their parents from going out to protesting. The political discourse is how much water was diverted from going to people in order to go to the secret underground nuclear facilities that the Islamic Republic has built in order to build a nuclear weapon. The political discourse is how much electricity is being diverted away from people who need electricity but have no access to electricity because that electricity is being diverted to the Islamic Republic's secret underground nuclear facilities to build nuclear weapons. That is literally the level of political discourse that we deal with as Iranians. It's not normal political discourse, right? It's it's literally like, you know, how are we going to deal with these Islamic terrorists today, right? How many Iranians did they murder in the name of Allah and Muhammad and Islam today, right? When all we want is to live in a free and secular country. But even saying that is a crime, right? Saying that is a crime. So I'll have more to say on this tomorrow. I want to thank everyone for joining. I wasn't planning on doing like an impromptu space, live stream tonight. But the news came out that Amir Hossein Mousavi did a forced confession, and the Islamic Republic is using the fake news article by Haaretz to justify claiming that this innocent Iranian is actually an Israeli agent. And by claiming that he's an Israeli agent and forcing him to make this confession, he's literally sealed his fate, and his fate is execution. Yeah. I'll have more to say tomorrow. So, yeah, if you can, join me on YouTube. That's my YouTube channel over there, Chikamari MPP. Find me there if you can. Like, subscribe, share. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel to get a bigger reach. I will within the next week or so have a more professional background or whatever. I wasn't planning on starting my live streams so soon, but with all the news coming out, it doesn't matter. Like I would, at this point, what's important is speaking out. I can come up with a fancy background and like a fancy looking microphone later or whatever. But right now, I think it's important to just be a voice and get the word out there. So, yeah, I hope you don't mind these sort of impromptu kitchen table background or whatever. You know, I'll go fancy at some point, but um, I don't even think it matters really. You know, people's lives are on the line here. People's lives are on the line, and shame on Haaretz, shame on everyone who supported Haaretz. I'll have more to say on that tomorrow. I mean, I spoke a little bit today about how the leftists have been promoting the Haaretz article as well because they have Pahlavi derangement syndrome. And a lot of those leftists are now backtracking. They're deleting their posts where they promoted the Haaretz article. But you know, something, the internet is forever, and there are certain Iranian accounts, big Iranian accounts, and their jobs are basically to monitor, keep track, and to have receipts for everything. So I can tell you that there will be a day of reckoning, and every single person who promoted that Haaretz article will be held to account. Will be held to account. They're going to pay. Every single one of them, they're going to pay for um, being a part of the Islamic regime propaganda machine. They're going to pay. Anyways, thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate it, and have a good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Thank you for your support, and thank you for being here and listening to me rant, and helping me raise awareness about the human rights violations happening in Iran. I really do appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much, everyone. پاینده ایران جاوید شاه.